Hi! In this video I'll be making this Christmas tree beanie. I'm making it in a size medium for adults, but it's easy to adjust to a different size and I show you how to do that in the video. For this project I used almost a whole ball of Caron Simply Soft yarn, and this is a weight 4 or medium weight yarn, and it's 141 grams, so I didn't quite use it all. And the colour of this one is Woodland Heather, but any Christmassy colour really would work. I'm also going to use a 4.5mm hook, and I've got some stitch markers and some scissors. To start, we're going to take our yarn and make a slip knot. Insert your hook, and now we're going to do a chain up of 10. Once you've got 10, we're going to block off that last chain and do a chain up one more time, and then we're going to skip that first stitch and insert our hook into the second stitch from the hook, so the one that we blocked off, and we're going to do a single crochet. So to do a single crochet you just need to insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. So just keep doing that all the way down until you get to the end. So now I've just done my last single crochet, and we're going to chain up 1 and turn our work. Now we're going to do back loop single crochets. So I'm going to skip that chain, and I'm going to insert my hook into the back loop of this. So this is the front loop, this is the back loop. It's going into the back loop only and doing a single crochet. So you're just going to continue going all the way down the row doing back loop single crochets. This is going to be the repeating pattern now, so we'll go through it one more time when I get to the end. So now I'm just doing my last single crochet into the back loop. And now we're going to chain up 1, turn our work, and go back down the line doing back loop single crochets. So now you just need to keep doing rows of back loop single crochets until this is wide enough to wrap around your head. For everybody that's going to be a little bit different, just keep going until you can stretch it around your head. Which for this pattern I used 75 rows, but if that doesn't fit your head, feel free to use a different row count. So once you've made a band that's long enough to wrap all the way around your head, we're going to join the 2 sides together. So to do that, you just need to line them up like this, and then you're going to insert your hook through one side and then into the other side. And then we're going to do a slip stitch. So you just yarn over, pull through again. So you're just going to do that by inserting through the first side, inserting through the second side, and doing a slip stitch. Just keep going until you've joined every stitch together, going all the way down both sides. I'm doing my last stitch now. Now we're going to chain up 1, and we're going to open up our band and turn our work. So you want the good side facing you and the stitch side on the inside. So now for this bit it's a little bit trickier because there's not exact stitches that you need to go into, but you basically need to insert into the raised stitch and the divot stitch. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. We're going to do 1 single crochet into each row, but every 4th row we're going to do 2 single crochets. So we'll do 1, 2, 3 into the raised, 4 into the divot, and then 1 more single crochet into that divot. This is because if we did 1 single crochet in every row, this bit would end up stretchier than this bit, and it will just make it a bit more uncomfortable to wear. So let's keep going into the raised, 1 into the divot, into the raised, and 2 stitches into the divot. Just keep going all the way around until you've done 1 single crochet into every row with 2 single crochets in every 4th stitch. Now that we've made our way to the end, I'm going to do a single crochet into that last stitch, and I'm going to join up into that first stitch of the last row that we did. So slip stitch. Alright, now we're going to chain up 1, and we're going to do a row of single crochets into every stitch in that previous row. So you don't need to do any increases this time, just do 1 single crochet into every stitch. So once you've finished that row, we're just going to do our last single crochet and then join in on that first stitch of the last row. So just do a slip stitch to join. Now we're going to chain up 1, and we're going to do another row of single crochets, but this time we're going to go into the front loop only. So you'll see here this little V, we're going to only go into that front loop and not the back loop. So the front loop is here, and we're going to miss that back loop and do a single crochet. So we'll see that again, there's the V, so you're going to insert only into that front loop, and we're going to do a single crochet. Now you're just going to continue doing this all the way around until you reach the start again. Okay, now that you've made it all the way back around, we're going to do our last single crochet into the front loop only, and we're going to slip stitch into that first stitch of the previous row. So now you can see that this row that we just did is sort of flopping forward off the front of the beanie, and that's exactly what we want, because now we're going to start our tree branches and we want them to come forward. So to start this off, we're going to chain up 1, and now we're going to do 2 single crochets into that first stitch. So we're going to do 1 single crochet into that first stitch through both loops, and then we're going to insert our hook back into that same stitch and do another single crochet. Now into the next stitch, we're going to do 2 half double crochets. So we're going to do our first half double crochet, and now back into that same stitch, another half double crochet. Into the stitch after that, we're going to do 2 double crochets. So the first double crochet, and now back into the same stitch, we're going to do another double crochet. Now we're going to do 2 triple crochets. So yarn over twice for a triple crochet. We're going to do our first triple crochet, but the different thing about this one is that we're going to do a chain in the middle of our triple crochets. So we're going to chain up 1, and now we're going to do our second triple crochet. This is just to give us a bit more of a peak. If you don't want to do that, that's totally fine. It'll still work, but it'll just help us get more of a peak to our branch. So now into that next stitch, we're going to do 2 double crochets. So 1 double, 2 double into the same stitch. Now 2 half double crochets. And we're going to do 2 single crochets into that next stitch. And another single. Alright, so that's our first tree branch, you can see there. Let's do another one. So we're going to start off with a single crochet again. Even though we just did a single crochet, you're going to have 2 in a row going around this time. So another lot of 2 single crochets, and now 2 half double crochets, two double crochets, and 1 triple crochet followed by a chain, and then another triple crochet back into that same stitch. Now 2 double crochets, 1, 2, 2 half double crochets, and 2 single crochets. So now you can see there we've got our 2 tree branches, and they're a bit wobbly, and that's exactly what you want. You don't want them to be stretched out, you want them to be bunched up, and they're actually going to sit like this over the top of the front of the beanie, as you can see. So now just keep going around following that same pattern until you get back to the end. If your last bump lines up perfectly with this, then that's great, just finish off there. If you get sort of halfway through a bump, check back in and I'll show you what to do. Okay, so now we're almost back at the start, and it turned out pretty lucky for me. I almost have enough room to do a full branch, but basically what you want to do is just count how many stitches you have left, and my first choice to skip would be the half double crochets, so just go straight from the single crochet to the double crochet, or you could skip the double crochets, but just try to make a bump, even if it's slightly smaller. Even if you skip the triple crochet, you won't really notice because it's going to have so many layers overlapping each other. It won't be super important. So I'm just going to do my last one. I'm up to my half double crochets, so I've got my doubles, my triples, back to doubles, and I can see I've got 2 left, so I'm going to do doubles and then I'm going to do singles, and I'm going to skip my second half double crochet, and I'm going straight to singles. So now we're back at the start. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to join on, but then we're going to start crocheting back from this back loop from that row. So when we did them, we did a single crochet onto the front loop only, and so now the back loops are free. So we're going to go into the back loop, and that's going to allow us to keep going vertically up. So I'm just going to slip stitch to join. Oh, that's tight. Slip stitch, and now I'm going to chain up 3, 2, 3. Actually, now I'm going to chain up 2, 1, 2. So we'd normally do 1, but I'm doing an extra one so that I can pull it back. I don't know if you can see. So it's like this, but we're going to flip it over and pull it back and do a stitch into that back loop. I'm just going to do a joining stitch. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a row of double crochets. So we're going to do 1 double crochet into every back loop going all the way around. So you can see here, it's almost like a straight line going across. So there's one, the next one, the next one. So just into every back loop, you're going to do a double crochet. So just keep going all the way around until you've done a row of double crochet going into the back loop. Alright, so now that we're back at the start, I'm just going to do my last double, and I'm going to join on to the previous row, so just insert and slip stitch. Now I'm going to chain up one, and we're going to put one single crochet in every front loop of this row. So what we did before, but we're going to do a single crochet into each front loop. So you can see there's front loop and single crochet into every front loop going all the way around like we did before. Alright, now we're almost back at the start. I'm just going to do my last 2 single crochets, and then I'm going to join in to the row before by doing a slip stitch. Alright, now we're back up to doing our next branch row. Because we did this one, we started off in the small side, we want to start off in the peak so that they overlap each other, so it's not all of the short ones lined up and all of the long ones lined up. So to start, I'm going to chain 4. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my triple crochet into that first stitch there. So we're basically starting in the middle of a branch to make sure that they're interchanged with the row before. So now I'm going to go ahead and do my 2 double crochets, half double, and now my singles. And so now I'm going to start on my next branch, which is just going to be a normal branch. So I've got the singles, half doubles, doubles, triple, chain 1 and another triple, doubles, half doubles, and singles. So now you can see the 2, so the row before you've got the peaks, and then this peak falls in the middle. So by the time you finish the beanie, they're all going to be interchanged like that. So now you just keep going all the way around until you get to the end, and I'll show you how to join on. So now we're almost back at the start, and I realized if I do my full decrease, I won't be able to increase enough in time. So I'm going to do a half double crochet, a single crochet, and then I'm going to go straight to double. So 2 singles, and now I'm going to do 2 doubles, and then join on at the top of this stitch. So now you can see it's still lined up, still overlapping how we want it to overlap. This pattern requires a fair bit of improv depending on where you end up when you come back around from your row. So you'll just have to be prepared that you might need to make some changes as you go, but you can't really stuff it up. Like even if you have only half a one or only a little one, really in the scheme of things you're not going to see it. I've got one here that's finished, and some of these are half ones and not all of them are full ones, but you can't really see. Once you've put them all together, it's really hard to tell. So just make a judgment call and do what you think is best. To get back to the start, we're going to chain up 3 and pull it back behind, and I'm going to join in to the stitch there. And now we're going to do our row of double crochets going into that back loop of the stitch that we missed before. So you see, like we did before, the back loop. So I'm going to do a chain up of 3, and I'm going to do a double crochet into every back loop going all the way around, and that's going to be the pattern for the next few at least. So now you're going to do, after you've done this row of double crochets, you'll do the single crochets in the front loop, a row of branches, then another row of double crochets, single crochets into the front loop, and then another row of branches. So just do that until you have 4 rows of branches, and then we'll meet back and we'll start decreasing. Okay, so now we've finished doing our first 4 branch ruffle layers. So you should have 4 branch ruffles now. And so now we're going to start decreasing. So we're up to the row of double crochets. So we're going to chain 3. And now we're going to do a double crochet into every stitch like we've done previously, but this time every 4th stitch we're going to stitch 2 together. So that's 1, 2, 3, and now we're up to the 4th one. Now we're going to stitch 2 together. So to do that, we're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Then before we do the next one, we're going to yarn over again, insert our hook into that next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, so that you have 3 loops on the hook, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So you can see now that those 2 have been stitched together. So in the next row, it'll only be 1 instead of 2. So now we're just going to continue on. So we're going to do 1 double crochet, 2, 3, and now for 4th, we're going to do stitch 2 together again. So we'll go through that one more time. So now we have 3 loops on the hook. So there you go. So just keep going all the way around this row, doing stitching 2 double crochets together every 4th double crochet. Okay, so I'm almost finished with this row of doing double crochets with stitching 2 together every 4th. So I'm just doing my last 2 double crochets, and then I'm going to join up to that first chain of the last row. And now we're going to do 1 single crochet into the front loop just like normal. So we're going to do these next 2 rows exactly the same as we've done it before. So we're just going to do 1 single crochet into the front loop of every stitch, and then we're going to do our ruffle branch stitches. And then when we go back to doing our next row of double crochets, we're going to do the same thing we just did here with stitching every 4th stitch together. So basically we're just going to repeat what we've done for 2 more rows. So you should have 6 rows of the ruffle feathers, and then come back and we will decrease even more. Okay, so now we've done our first 6 rows of branch stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now we're back to the double crochet row, and this time we're going to do a decrease on every 2nd stitch. So I'm going to chain up 3 for my first. Now I'm going to do 1 double crochet, and now I'm going to stitch 2 together. So pull through 3 loops on the hook, and now I'm going to do 1 double crochet and 1 stitch 2 together. So this will make the beanie start coming in to a point at the top quite quickly. If you need to make it bigger, it really does depend on what size you want. I'm making this for my partner, and he's got a fairly large head, so it's probably a medium to large, I would guess. If you need it to be a bit bigger, just keep adding more rows where you're only decreasing every 4th stitch. Or if you need it to come in quicker, you can decrease every stitch. It really depends on the size and shape of your head. So I would use the double crochet section as a way to dictate the size of your beanie and then do the single crochets and the branches as normal every time without doing any decreases. So just keep going until it gets close enough to bring it to a point together, and then come back and we'll close it off together. Feel free obviously to add anything that you need to add to this pattern or adjust it however you need. It's pretty easy to adjust because you can't see any of the decreases when these are down, and as long as they're somewhat overlapped, they don't have to be perfect. Like these kind of all in a row, but when it's fluffed up, you can't even really tell. So it's a pretty easy pattern to adjust for the size of your head. So once you've finished this row, just continue as we've been doing before with the row of single crochets and then the branch rows, and then just every time you're doing the double crochet row, make sure you're stitching every second stitch together, and that should bring it to a point. Okay, so as you can see, I've made it to almost the top where I only have a few stitches left. And we're going to do our last row of branch stitches. So I've done my row of double crochets, stitching 2 together every second stitch, and my row of single crochets into the front loop only. So now we're going to do our branch stitches, but this time for the last one we're going to skip the single crochets because we want to make sure that we make it around more than twice, because if we sort of had one branch here and one branch here, it might look funny. We want to have at least 3. You can try to do 4 if you want, but at least 3. So I've done 1 chain up, I'm going to chain up again, so you have 2. And I'm going to start off by doing 2 half double crochets. So we're skipping the single crochets and we're going straight into the half double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and now we're going into the double crochets. 1, 2, and now the triple crochets with a chain up in the middle. Now we're going back to our double crochets. And now half double crochets. Alright, so you can take a gauge here as to whether you want to do another loop of half double crochets or if you want to go straight back up. I think because I'm almost halfway around, I'm actually not going to do my second lot of half double crochets. I'm going to go straight back into the double crochets. So like I said before, this pattern requires a little bit of improvisation. So definitely if you think something will look better than what I'm doing here, go ahead and do it. It probably will. It really depends on each beanie individually when you get to this point, so don't be afraid to go off book a bit. So we've got our double crochets. Now I'm doing the triple crochets. And my chain. And now doubles. And half doubles. So now, just like before, I'm going to go straight back in with my doubles. So 2 doubles. One, 2, and triples. Chain, next triple. So we just did our triples, now back to the doubles. Double, and the half doubles. So you can really do what you want here. I think I'm actually going to do a triple into this last one here, just to give us one more peak. It's not going to be a full peak, but I don't know, I think it'll be better than taking it down to another lot of triples. So now I'm going to join on with a slip stitch. Alright, so now have a look and make sure you like it. If you don't like it, undo it, start again. You'll regret it if you don't. But you can see here, it overlaps nicely. It won't be too noticeable because we will be putting a pom-pom on the top, but it just sort of finishes it off without having it go too far in. I think I personally like that. If you don't, keep the single crochets in, it's totally up to you. So now we're going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and join back on to the back loop of the single crochet row. And now I'm going to chain up 3, and we're pretty much trying to just close the hole now. So that was our last branch row. We're just going to try to close the hole, because if we did any more rows of branch rows here, you wouldn't see them. The pom-pom would be in the way, so there's no point in doing that. So I'm going to stitch 3 together going around. So I'm going to yarn over, so that's 2 together. And now you're just going to do what we did before, but you're going to add one more on. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And now instead of having 3 on the hook, you're going to have 4 on the hook. And now pull through all 4 loops. I'm going to do that again. So 4 loops on the hook, pull through, probably be able to do that twice more. 2, 3, pull through all 4 loops, and probably the last one here. But like I said, if your hole is bigger and you need to do more, do more. If you can do less, do less. Oh no, there's going to be one more after this. And the last one. Alright. So now we're going to join on to that first stitch, and we're pretty much covered the hole. So you can see it's pretty much closed up. So now you can chain 1. And you have a couple of options here for attaching your pom-pom. If you just want to tie the pom-pom on and you don't want to take it off, you want it to be permanent, you can just cut here and then tie your pom-pom over this center hole. Or the other option, which is what I did on my first Christmas tree beanie, is I actually made a little loop here out of chains. And so what I did onto some of my pom-poms, I've sewn buttons onto the bottom. And so you can just pop the button right through this hole, and it means you can swap your pom-poms in and out. So that's an advantage if you might want to put a temporary pom-pom in, or you might want to swap them out a lot. So you could do that, or you can just tie it off and attach your pom-pom with some yarn. Okay, so now you just need to grab your beanie and your pom-pom, and if you've left a nice long string, you can just poke it through the top. And I'm just going to tie mine in a double bow, because in case I want to take it off. You could definitely tie it on so it's more permanent, but I might want to swap it around with something else. Tie it in a double bow so that it's secure but not impossible to remove. And because this is the inside of the beanie, you can just leave all these strands hanging here, just as long as they don't poke out the top that's totally fine. So now you've got your pom-pom beanie. So the last step to do, apart from weaving in the ends, is to add your little sparkly pom-poms. So I'm going to fold mine in half. I'm going to find the seam and try to sit it as flat as I can. Now I'm just going to grab some pom-poms. You could definitely use like red and green and silver pom-poms, or multicolored. You could also use smaller ones as well. These are the smallest ones that I could find that weren't teeny tiny. I'm just going to randomly place the pom-poms around on my beanie, making sure to space out the colors. And then when I'm happy with how they are, I'm going to stitch them down. So now I'm just going to take a small little needle and some thread, and I'm going to stitch on the pom-poms. So I'm going to grab the first one and insert under the leaf flap just so that you can't see it through the pom-pom. And back through the leaves. Now that's secured, and I'll just cut off the excess. So now you can just go ahead and do that to all of the pom-poms, putting them in the places that you want, then flip it over and do the other side, and then you should be done with your beanie. If you don't want to individually stitch on pom-poms, but you do want a bit of extra decoration for your beanie, I'd also recommend getting some kind of ribbon or garland. I got this one from Spotlight if you're in Australia, and I've just basically wrapped this around under every second layer, and I'm going to stitch down now, and that will take a lot less time than stitching on the pom-poms individually, but I still think it looks pretty cool. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them below in the comments and I will get back to you. If you make any of my projects, please tag me on Instagram at stephtashi_handmade.